people generally change. It's real. People do change. And I'm like, what? What is going on? What is this?
Am I going down the right path?
I want to be accountable for my behaviors, good and bad.
Steven, what's going on, man? Welcome to the Dad Edge podcast.
How are you, Larry?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm well.
All right. I know we're going to be talking about some pretty triggering things. So I figured, you know what? You want to start out with some fun questions?
Sure, whatever you want.
Yeah, let's just do it. Let's just get warmed up. So, um, tell me this, favorite hobby and why?
For me, the favorite hobby is dirt biking.
You have a dirt
So
bike?
I do. So I'm a little old school, depending on
Okay.
who you're talking to. But so I'm a 2006 KTM 525 EXC. So that's the big comfortable seats,
Yeah.
bikes like almost 300 pounds. But so like desert stuff, did a cool ride with my dad does one every year. He does the Pony Express Trail across the state of Nevada. So so you stay in all these dive hotels that are garbage. And so more like that than like being on a track. No knock to the track guys. All about just my life has been more so kind of trail riding stuff. But um,
Man,
that's
that's
the
so
number one
cool.
hobby for me. Yeah.
Dude, that's so cool. I don't get to share this very often just because I very rarely, run into somebody else. But like, yeah, we all, everybody in my family, we all have dirt bikes. So I've got a Honda 250 CFR.
Yep.
We've
Great
got,
bike.
yeah, it's great. I bought it 2019. I mean, I've been dirt biking for 20 years. We've got a 110, we've got a
Hmm.
70, we've got a 50, we've got two four-wheelers, but
Yep.
my father-in-law of all people taught me how to dirt bike ride when I was 30. And I didn't do it until then. And he's 68. And that guy, he's been riding for 45 years. That guy can outride all of us. Like we
Yes.
can't keep up with the dude, and he's quite a bit older than us, but like he's awesome. But that's really cool. What got you involved in that?
Yep. So that's from childhood. Both my mom and dad were dirt bike riders, and
Your
so
mom?
oh yeah, my mom's
What?
for real. Oh yeah, mom's for real. My wife rides, so
Oh,
yep. Shout
dude.
out to Kayla, she gets it done. So yeah, so not just the man sport, but it's so yeah, that me for me, summer vacations and like the like Labor Day,
Yeah.
Memorial Day, those were camper out in the wood, like dry camping. So not like an RV part, like out in the woods and we're motorcycling around. Like to me, that's when you say like childhood summer vacation, that's what I know.
I love that, man. That's so
Yeah.
cool. The reason I was so shocked is so, my wife, she grew up with, obviously my father-in-law and he was a dirt bike rider his whole life. She has two younger brothers. They have dirt bikes. My wife grew up on dirt bikes and she grew up on, I always joke she grew up on dirt bikes and dune buggies. Like she's a guy's
Uh-huh.
gal,
Yep.
she doesn't mind
Yep.
getting dirty. Like, so that's cool, man. You don't find many females out there that are like, yeah, let me go too. So it's pretty
Yep.
awesome.
Yep. Super
Wow.
cool. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
hold on to her, man. Wow, that's really, really cool. Okay. So favorite hobby. What's your favorite thing to do with your kids besides dirt bike riding?
Well, so it depends on the kid. So I've got a boy and a girl and right in tune with you guys talk about like really right loving them and being in their world. And so my daughter is very much like in her feminine energy of like the creative. And so if you want to like pin her like we ice skate together or we dirt bike together, we like it's always something creative and new. And so like recently we've been into scavenger hunts that
Okay.
she's all about. So I got a clue last night handed to me. She's like, here's clue number one. Because I was running one of our therapy workshops in Hawaii. So I did one for her last month over like 14 days. Baking stuff, cotton candy machine. I mean, go just all the different places we go. And then my little boy, he's kind of in the sports thing, which sports was a big thing for me in my childhood, very competitive, all that. So I'm kind of like, okay, if I only had like a chess club kid. But he's super into sports, so we're doing that, the flag football and the basketball and the comp soccer. But the dirty secret is I also do have a chess club kid. We are like hardcore Pokemon players, like the trading
Okay.
card game.
Yeah.
Like go to tournaments. We're probably going to like a regional tournament next year. Like know how to play all the cards. It's turns out it's harder than it looks, but So I'm a closet Pokemon player with my 7-year-old son Porter. So yeah.
That's so cool, man. I love that. It's funny. I didn't expect to like those answers, right? Especially like, but that is so cool, man. So all right, let's get into the meat and potatoes, right? Um, I'll tell you what, man. The thing I have to admire, your bravery here. We've had a lot of guys. No, seriously, like
Sure.
So let me give you some context. So I've had quite a few guys on the show over the past couple of years talk about porn and sex addiction and that kind of thing. We just, as you and I are recording, I
Yep.
literally just got back 2 days ago from the seventh annual Dad Edge Summit. We had
Mm-hmm.
a speaker actually speak on the topic of sex addiction, pornography, and all the like really horrific things that can come with it. And
Yep.
quite frankly, a lot of the things that not even on our radar. But to be honest, man, I would love for you to just start wherever you want to start and share your story because I know it's pretty robust.
Yeah, I think yeah, I mean, so much to say about sharing a story, and it is a topic like we could do 100 podcasts. But what I can say about me is there's a couple of things that are true about me. So I'm one person that you can't tell me I don't know. And so in my experience, like exposed to stuff as a kid, had a bunch of sexual abuse in my family as a kid, not me personally, but a whole bunch of family members and all that. So like a ton of the trauma stuff. But then also I was a kid kind of in the 90s, early 2000, and that's a particular crossroads for this issue because the internet became a thing, but it was also pre us putting regulation in place. So for example, prior to 2007, I could just spam you with porn. So whatever website you're on, whatever email address you have, however you were dialing up, I can literally just spam you with porn and there was no regulation around it. So it was boom, it was flooded everywhere, no one knew how to talk about it. And so that spun into a whole bunch of kind of sex like that. And it's some of the themes, I mean, that you talk about here. It's never really actually about sex, just like how alcoholism's not about alcohol, right? And drug addiction is not about the drugs, right? It's about emotionally coping. It's not being fully in who I am as a man, right? And that larger story that we all have. And it when you're living outside the legendary, to use your words, right? Like addiction happens. Like that's what happens. And so, wasn't living legendary, was not living my life fully. And so went from a bunch of, different stuff. I'm a big church guy too. So I've always been very active in my church. And so I had this big dual life. So height of my addiction, I'm like in pastoral leadership in my church, like at a young age. Like everyone's like, this guy's a church rock star. While over here hiring prostitutes with money that I'm stealing from the family business because there aren't any checks and balances, and looking at a whole bunch of porn all the time. Married, in this process and all of that. And so for me, that was like height of all of the addiction stuff. And I I realized, had that epiphany that people have, that I'm living this huge dual life and I've got to choose, like, do I believe in God? And when I'm talking about in church and that light of walking in the light and doing things and being a dad and a father and being for real in my authenticity, or do I want to stay high in the shadows and doing the things? And so step forward with that, to make a 10-year story short. I very much believe in that people get to recovered and that people get to healed ED, meaning it's not sexually compulsive behavior is not something you have to manage for your whole life. In that process, I realized that guys like you and me don't talk about it, right? Like it's not a real popular thing at dinner parties or church communities or out golfing with some guys, like, hey, dude, that was a nice chip up there, Brad. By the way, I'm in the middle of an affair, and I wonder if we could just like talk through that together as we kind of hit the back nine. It's not a typical conversation, right? Like
Yeah.
I was once at a golf work event with a bunch of guys down in Vegas, and in that circle, I was very much seen as like the church guy, and so where there's 8 of us coming up to this tee box. And one guy's like, so like anyone hiring any hookers, and starts to go in what I would define as some toxic masculinity conversation. And so I just spoke up and I said, "Have you ever actually done it?" And they're all like, "Ugh." And in that depth of that pause, I was like, "It's actually a really different experience than you would think." And then I just walked up to tee off, and it's weird. We never talked about it again for the rest of the that golf round. And so I started Unashamed Unafraid a podcast just for men to share their story, because that's what gave me hope in my story, was hearing other normal guys like me and you, Larry, that I'm like, they're doing the thing. Like they have the change that has happened. And so a whole bunch that we could go into that story wherever you want to go, but that's the 2 second version.
So let's talk about the taboo thing of this. So like, we run so I run Dad Edge Alliance, which is our mastermind
Mhm. Yep.
community.
Yep.
We also have what's called the boardroom, that's for our business owners. And I'll tell you, in that environment, we talk insanely open about this stuff. In fact, like it's really fascinating to me. I remember when we started Dad Edge and when we started even the mastermind, like back in 2016, it's going back almost 9 years ago.
Mhm.
And I remember being like, oh my gosh, there's going to be a ceiling of things that guys are going to guys feel okay talking about. And then there's going to be something that they absolutely are not. Right. And what I can tell you is the whole porn and sex talk and all that, like it's not even awkward anymore, like at all. Like there's
Mhm.
so much
Mhm.
of the shame and the guilt and all that that's removed in an environment like that. It's no big deal. And we talk about it like, hey, it's the weather. And like, oh, by the way, like, how's your habits with porn lately? And when a dude's like, yeah, I just did it this morning, and we're like, there really is no judgment. I mean, obviously there's care, and then there's coaching, and there's strategy and advice and all that we
Of
give them. We
course.
don't we don't let
Yeah.
them off the hook. But like in that environment, nobody's hiding, right? But you are
Mhm.
100% right, because in every other environment, it's not like you're gonna be on the golf course or like sitting next to, another dad who, as you're watching your kid play little league, and be like, oh yeah, so right. We just don't
Mhm.
do that. But talk to me a little bit about that, because I've learned, just through other people who are way smarter than me, is that, it's the shame and the guilt that actually keeps us insanely trapped. Like
Mhm.
that is the one thing that keeps the shackles on. I'd love for you to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, no, it's all about shame, right? So guilt is I've done something bad, shame is I am bad, right? And
Oh,
so I
I've never heard
remember,
it. I've never heard it stated like that. That's good.
yeah, so two different, so to me I'd say guilt is a good thing, right? Like as a mental health therapist, and that I'm like, I hope you feel guilty, right? So if I showed up a half hour late for this podcast and was super disrespectful and all of that, I would hope that after, when you're like, never mind, dude, we don't need to record, thanks, that I would sit with myself in my mastermind group and go, "Hey guys, what happened here?" And they'd be like, "Hey, dude, you can't be disrespectful to people. That's a hard way to do connection. That's not going to pay off." And I can look at that behavior and be like, "Oh, I should be more respectful of people's time." That matters, because guilt is what changes us, right? Guilt is what helps us look at something and go, "Oh, not how I want to do that, not how I want to show up, not how I would say that again, or not the business deal I would make again, or not how I'd parent my kids again. If I could do that over, I'd change it." And then we do, right? But shame is when it becomes about who we are, right? And so if I'm just a bad person, well, how do you change that, right? So if this is a bad episode of your podcast because you decided to format it differently or bring on a different type of guest or whatever, and you can be like, "Oh, that didn't land. We got a bunch of hate. People don't like it. It's not a message for us." You can change that, right? Guilt, sure. But if we walk away and this is a terrible podcast episode and everyone's like, "You suck at podcasting. Larry, you're not a podcaster. You're a terrible leader." Like Edge minus, like not, right? Like cancel culture, go. If you are bad, well, what do we do about that? Because it's not just about recording another episode or changing your format. I'm stuck in it. And so if you think about sexuality, it's the greatest way that we do intimacy. It's where like depth of our identity is so far down there in our sexuality. And so when you mix shame into our sexuality, that's a pretty deep level to tell someone that they're bad, unlovable, unworthy. So like using my own story, there's a point in time my wife is following this friend on Instagram, and she's like, "Yeah, me and my husband got divorced because turns out he was having an affair, and whatever. I don't want to totally bash him, but screw that guy, you know." And meantime, I'm literally sleeping with prostitutes over here. And my wife says, as we're driving, she's like, if you ever did that, I would totally divorce you. So, what's the message I'm getting? If you're a guy that does that, you're bad.
You're
You're
out.
not worthy of love. You're on your own. You shouldn't father your kids. You shouldn't be in your church. You shouldn't, if you go to the soccer game to watch, little Johnny play, everyone there is going to know that you're this creeper dude. And because it's so deep in our identity, right? And so that's the why shame is like really the culprit. Like shame is what perpetuates compulsive behavior, is because if it's something I can change, people generally change. It's real. People do change. People in shame don't, because it's an identity. So what's the point? I am a sex addict. I am an alcoholic. I am a bad dad. I am a lazy husband. Those labels change. We can't change that, right? But we can change our behavior.
So you said we can't change those labels?
Identity, no. If you are a lazy dad,
Yeah.
if that's true, Larry, if you just are that, well, it's who you are. That's your identity.
But I can change that.
Not if you believe in shame.
So I'm okay. I
Mhm.
like where you're going because I'm sitting here unraveling like all the
Right.
psychology
Yep.
of like anybody I've ever come across. So tell me more
Right.
about this because
Because go ahead.
I was just gonna say, my first knee jerk reaction to that statement was that's bullshit. Like, and I'm not saying you're full of it, but just that
Oh,
state,
yes.
like that idea, because like I'm sitting here thinking, like, wait a second, if that was the case, like there'd be no hope for like a lot of us. But maybe I'm just not grasping what you're saying.
You're grasping it perfectly. The
Okay,
difference is right now, you don't currently believe that you're a lazy dad.
I don't.
That's
Yeah,
not a shame message that you were wrestling with.
I think I was for one time though.
Right. So if I catch you 15 years ago
Oh yeah,
on a weekend where you're checked out on your phone, ignoring the kids, bartering for sex, whatever that version of you looked like, and you're like, "Hey, I'm really going to play with my kids this afternoon." And you go out there and you engage for a minute and you start to change who you are, right? And your wife's like, "Oh, look at lazy dad decide to actually show up once," and walks inside. What she just reinforces that this is not who you are. You're the guy on the couch on his phone. So she's reinforced that shame label that I am a lazy dad. And so when you talk to people when they're in the struggle with whatever label it is, it's their faulty core belief that that's true. That's what shame does, is it reinforces that faulty core belief. So every time you're tired as a dad or you tell your kid one sec, right, or you're going out of town for work, that shame message like, see, there you are, lazy dad, checked out dad, there's evidence, 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 trying to point all of that evidence to who you are. But when we don't make our behavior who we are, it's what we do, right? So you do run a mastermind group, you run the alliance, these are things you do. You do dirt bike. None of those are who Larry is.
very true.
And so that's the difference, right? Is when we can just hold on to what is our true identity and not let those shame labels get put on us, right? But when people are in addiction, they buy those shame labels, right? I must be a bad guy because I had an affair. I'm one of the bad guys, right? And so they can come to your mastermind group, come anywhere, and they're like, oh, yeah, there are people who do good things and maybe I have good behaviors, but I am bad. And so that's the shift of when I see people go from like trying harder, working recovery, hustling for it, to just living their legendary life, is when they shed that shame message, right? As you illustrated right when we started this, when you're like, no, I'm just not, I know I'm not a lazy dad. I'm like, boom. That's why you're doing all that you're doing, and none of that's getting in the way, right?
Yeah, I agree. But here, let me just be totally transparent with you. And I would love
Totally.
for you, I just want to be your guinea pig for a second. So, do I identify as a lazy dad? No. do I have lazy tendencies from time to time that I allow myself, even sometimes reluctantly to dive in on?
Mm-hmm.
Sure. And then I feel the guilt. Um, so I'm curious, like it, so like for instance, I'll just be transparent. I think a lot of people out there think like I've got this all figured out. I don't. I
Yeah.
don't. I
Right.
don't at all. In fact, well, I wouldn't say at all. Like doing the podcast for 10 years, talking to smarter people like yourself for so long, it's helped me tremendously. And yes, I definitely know more than I did back then, but there's still a lot of days where I'm just like, face plant and another face plant and I screwed
Mm-hmm.
up again, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I would say like with me, and I think I speak for a lot of guys, I feel like in a way, I got not in a way, but I go to, and again, I think people think I've got this figured out. I go to battle with myself every single day,
Mm-hmm.
to pull these right levers, to make sure that I'm doing the things and being the dad that I want, because I know that if given too much, leeway, I could fall into some bad things again, if I allow
Mm-hmm.
myself to. So like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm just curious, like what's the difference between maybe where I'm at, where I'm like, okay, like I'll give you an example. Every morning when I wake up, I never look at my life like I'm at the penthouse of the top, like just like this is
Sure.
awesome, right? I
Yeah.
actually wake up the opposite. And a lot of people don't know this. I wake up feeling anxious probably 9 out of 10 days, like almost like I don't feel great waking up. I'm not saying I'm not rested, but like mentally
Mm-hmm.
and even physically, like I don't feel good. And it's not until like, okay, I'm going to go to the gym. Boom, I got that. I'm going to greet my kids. Boom, I got that. I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to hug and kiss my wife and embrace her and pour words of affirmation into her. Boom, okay, I got that. Now I'm going to go out and do these things, right? And and then when my kids come home, I'm going to play frisbee with them. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And I'm pulling these levers. And by the end of the day, I'm like, yes, right. I did something, I fell down over here, did some of
Yep.
these things right. But I'm curious, what's the difference between, guys who operate like that, which all the while we're battling with ourselves versus the guy who maybe that battle is really powerful and they're losing that battle. I'm not sure if that
Yeah.
even makes sense, but you probably know where I'm going.
To- no, totally makes sense. And the $1 million question, like, so for you, you're the only person who can answer it, is when you wake up tomorrow morning, is your self-worth or your identity on the line?
I- Some days I feel that, yeah, for sure.
And that's where shame is entering the story. So to quote Brene Brown, we all have shame. The less you talk about it, the more you have of it, right? And so, like many things. And so there are moments where you're waking up one morning and you feel guilty about blowing your kids off the night before, or you're
Sure.
like, I was a total jerk to my wife yesterday. Like, I probably need to clean that up. Right. And again, that is a motivating of to you pulling those levers, right? What's motivating you to pull those levers? Why didn't you quit on this project 5 years ago and, you know, get yourself out of the spotlight and move on or whatever, right? Is because in your true identity, right? You want to be doing those things. There's a pull to doing those things because it's connecting you with your authenticity. So you want to give your wife the words of affirmation because you actually want her to be affirmed
Yeah.
and empowered because you want to deepen the love and connection between the two of you. That can happen from a place of guilt. And I would say you're in light, truth, growth, all the things. Watch the grass grow, power to you. Your life's going to be even crazy different 10 years from now. Awesome. Where we hit those stumbling block moments is when you're like, if I don't give her those words of affirmation, then I am not a good husband or not worthy of love. And so I have to earn it with her. And here's why when we put it in the lens of shame, earning it doesn't work, right? So you're a strong guy. So if you hold up and make a fist with me and hold it as tight as you can, right? Now you're motivated, you're making it happen, you're working it, right? Notice your knuckles on the top. What color do they turn as the blood rushes out of your hand?
That'd be
White.
red.
This is
Or yeah,
this
white.
is
Sorry.
yeah, this is where the term white knuckling comes from. Is that I'm going to try harder. So now if you squeeze that fist, right? What I know is eventually going to happen is it's going to break. eventually your effort of squeezing and trying harder is going to break. So if the only reason you're giving your wife the words of affirmation and cleaning up around the house and taking her on a date night and doing all the things to lean into the love and respect of that relationship is because you're trying to prove that you're not a bad husband, what's going to happen is it's going to take one moment of breaking where she's like, I'm just too tired. I'm actually just going to go watch TV and chat with my girlfriends, talk to you in the morning. And then your identity, because your identity is attached to that because I'm earning it. Now I'm like, oh, I'm a bad dad. And then that's where I get in an affair, get into working extra hours, get taken out of my legendary story, is because my identity is on the line versus I am motivated to connect with my authenticity. I know I'm not a lazy dad. And today I'm going to do my best to really connect with my kids and play the frisbee and hug them in the morning. And am I going to fall short and screw that up? Of course I am. But my worth as a man and a father is not up for debate. It's not contingent based on what happens today. I want to be accountable for my behaviors, good and bad, but my identity is not contingent. Because when your identity gets contingent, right, when that shame comes in, that's where people don't change in their life and
Mm.
feel stuck.
What, tell me about what this has to do with self-sabotage, or is it the same?
Same deal, because as soon as something goes wrong, I'm like, oh, she called me. Let's use the marriage as an example, right? She called me on Thursday and she's like, wait, I thought you were doing the dishes before you went to work. And I'm like, oh, sorry. I was like totally watching a YouTube video about the football game last weekend with somebody and like, uh, so now I don't even want to tell her that now because now
Yeah.
it just makes me look like totally like a jerk, right? So shame label. So I'm like, oh, I'm bad, right? And so if I have the narrative, I am a bad husband. I'm sitting at work all day Thursday, and I'm like, here it is, evidence again. I'm a bad husband. You know, I'm gonna quit coming to the Dad Edge Alliance thing because I'm not like those guys. I'm one of the loser, lazy ones that they talk about. Obviously, look at what just happened today. So I'm bad. So oh shoot, I already scheduled for us to go on a date night Friday. So I'm showing up to the date night, and what I'm saying subconsciously is, hey, I know that I'm not worthy of you, my wife, and I'm not worthy of connection and love and my needs getting met because I'm a screw up and a failure and a bad husband. So before I actually put myself out here this evening to see if I can earn that back, because that's my MO in shame is I'm going to earn it with you. I already feel like I can't earn it and I'm too tired. So instead of trying to do vulnerability with you, I'm going to say F this and I'm just going to start arguing with you and get date night canceled so I don't have to sit with the fact that I think I'm super unworthy of your love and connection.
Holy crap. I've never heard, I mean, that all makes a ton of sense. I've never heard self-sabotage described like that, especially there at the end.
Right.
Like,
But the
yeah,
funk but the guy's going to show up to your group and say this. Yeah, I don't know. Me and my wife were just off and had a bad week, so we were like arguing on Friday and I don't know. I just have resentment towards her and I don't know what that was all about.
gosh,
Cuz because the key with shame is like you don't see shame. Shame is not like, hey, by the way, I'm in your subconscious right now, convincing you that your true identity is crap and that you're a lazy bad dad. So I'm just going to keep kind of humming like a tune over here, but don't pay attention to me because I've totally deceived you. Keep believing you're lazy. Ready, go. Like
it's like,
that's not how it works, right? Like it's operating in that subconscious space, right? And so I don't say out loud, right? Our actions on Thursday made me feel like I'm a bad husband. Why don't I go ahead and self-sabotage Friday so it's not awkward and me trying to actually reconnect? Like, of course you don't do that, right? No, I don't do that. You don't do that. Like, it's just not how it works.
I have a tendency, I didn't even realize it until we started talking, but yeah, I would say I've gotten through a lot of my self-sabotage tactics, but now I know like I can fight it, you know. I still give
Mhm.
into it every now and again, but I can fight it. But exactly what you just said. There, so I am not the most I don't have the best memory in the world. Like,
Mhm.
and what I mean by that is I remember really useless stuff. Like my wife called like every I can quote any movie known to man, right? My wife is like, that is like the biggest waste of brain space ever. She's like, but you can never find your keys. Like for the love of
Right.
God, like where are your keys, right? And so like, or my phone, or my sunglasses, like those are the things like I always lose. I don't necessarily forget the important things, it's the little things. But it's one of those things, man. Like, and my wife, like, she'll send me I'll go to the grocery store. I'll be like, hey, do you need anything from the grocery store? She'll be like, yeah, I need these 11 things. And dude, it is like, I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. I come home with 10 and I
Mhm.
think that I've got the 11th. And
Yeah.
then she's
And
like,
three
oh,
things
hey,
she didn't want. You're like, you don't want these double stuffed Oreos? Oh, my bad.
oh, I got these for you. Oh, that's right. You don't want
Yeah.
them. I'll eat them. No, but I, I do like, there are sometimes
Yeah.
like I do take that as a part of like, and maybe I'm using the wrong words here, but like identity in a way, right? Like
Hmm.
I can be a forgetful person and it drives me absolutely mental. So when I come home and my wife is like, hey, you got the 10 things, you didn't get the face soap. And here's how I'll respond. I'll be like, what? Oh my God. Like, for the love of God. Like,
Hmm.
when the hell am I ever gonna get this right? Like my keys, my phone, my sunglasses, the grocery list, like stuff like that. I'm just like, ah. And I don't know what it in there. Sometimes I'm just like, I just go down the rabbit hole. And I just tell her, I'm like, I suck at this. And the
Hmm.
funny thing is there are areas that I'll talk about myself like that. And then there are other areas that I won't. But yeah, it's
Right.
like I have that identity and I will like get pissed about it. And this sounds like me acting like a child, which I probably totally am, but like I'll be pissed about it and I'll get mad at myself and then I'll get quiet about it. And then I think
Hmm.
the ego kind of goes in where I want to protect myself so other people don't see that I'm so damn forgetful from time to
Yep.
time. Is that
Yep.
what that is?
Yep. So that's and you even did it somatically with your fist without even trying. So you pulled in, everyone is watching, pulled in to that try harder.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yep.
I
Go
did.
for it. And so the key to busting shame, right, is creating safety. So what if you and I, Larry, had the audacity to own the fact that there's actually nothing wrong with the fact that you're forgetful?
Oh,
What
that would
if
be
we just
hard.
what if we just created a world like Snap, right? Go through the time portal, and we're now in a world that is the exact same as everything in your life, with the exception that everyone is altruistically, unconditionally loving, completely accepting of the fact that you're forgetful about things and that there's nothing wrong with you because that's true.
I would question that world because I'm like, isn't me remembering things like super important in my relationships?
Right? But what
Yeah.
if it
What if
wasn't?
it
What
wasn't?
what if
Yeah.
because what if you were fully accepted for being a flawed man,
I mean,
imperfect?
to be honest, I probably man, this is getting deep by the way. I probably have the hardest time with that of anybody that knows me, like or
Right.
anybody that's in a relationship with me.
And here's my kind of sideswipe for you. Do you want to know the definition of perfectionism, at least mine?
Yeah.
It's just white collar shame.
White collar shame. So like
Hmm.
mean like stain free or like white collar worker type thing.
White collar worker type thing. Because
Okay.
see, for you, if I come at you and I'm like, "Hey, Larry, I think that you're just a crappy dad," you're like, "No, I'm not, bro. I'm clean on that message, but I could just destroy you with that forgetfulness."
Oh, totally. 100%.
Because the white collar worker is, I gotta perfect it. I gotta be perfect. And anywhere I'm not perfect, if my identity comes, perfectionism is just shame. Because is there any man in the world that truly can be the perfect husband?
No.
Of course not. And so, what if we had the conversation where we would say, "Hey, look, Boo Boo Bear Cupcake. I know that's what you call your wife.
Oh, all
So
the time.
I'm on the inside track." So you said, "Hey, Boo Bear Cupcake, this is true about me. This is just true. And I have beat myself up for years about this. And I talk about it, and I make the fist and then it breaks, and I make the fist and then it breaks, and I make it, and I've done that a million times. Here's the question I have for you. Are you still willing to love me and be in relationship with me if that never changes?"
And you're asking what my wife would say?
Yeah, if it never changes. Yeah.
As she would. Yeah, I know she would. She's
Right.
very
And
tolerant.
Right. And I think she'd appreciate that vulnerability, right? And being
Yeah.
able to and so say, hey, and knowing that this is true about me, we accept it and love it. Now that my self-worth and identity is not on the line, and I can go to the grocery store and come back with seven of the things. In fact, I don't even know the number anymore because I quit keeping count because I'm not trying to get a perfect score. I'm not trying to get an A on this paper. It's not a spelling test. It's not a relationship test. It's just a dude going to the grocery store for his wife. So as I go, I get that we also still need these things on the list. So what does that look like with us in relationship together, supporting each other, knowing that I often just forget the list, right? So from your side of the fence, I would say that's like boundary work, right? And saying, hey, honey, I have two options for you. You can rattle off the list and I can come back with any assorted number of things you wanted and didn't want, which could be a fun game we could play. And I'm even happy to, in that model, then go back to the grocery store and get the three things that I forgot the next day or whatever. Or door number two, you can text me the list.
See, that's the bad
So
thing is that she texts me the list and I still miss the 11th thing. I'm not even kidding.
right, but so even then, that's and there's nothing wrong with that, right?
Yeah,
That's where I'd say is, hey, what then becomes the braking system for you, or the boundaries of saying, knowing that I'm a flawed man, knowing that I have flaws, without just trying harder, how can I get support in community and boundaries and space to help me with this flaw? And I know we're talking about not a big one, right? But so help me with this flaw. Because what I can tell you is if you're willing to be transparent enough, because you're not ashamed about it, I can guarantee you that you will never go to the grocery store and forget an item again. The problem is you're too busy trying on your own to earn it because your belief is this is something you should be able to do anyways. And it's ridiculous, stupid, or bad that you can't do it. And so when I'm ashamed of something, shame isolates me. I'm going to go do it on my own. But I wonder what would happen, right? If more community, more engagement said, hey, this is important. This is the way I can show up and battle for my wife's heart. And we just kept upping the accountability and support. I promise you, I could guarantee you a system, if you're willing to play ball, that you never leave the grocery store with anything other than the 11 items. And what I can tell you is you've actually already done stuff like this in your life, or you wouldn't be sitting here with me in this context. So you've already done this over and over and over again in all the places where you've gotten shame out of your life, where you've
that's so
put things
true.
into place, the people, whatever it is that need to happen to make sure that this happens.
Huh. That's really interesting. Like, and I definitely want to get back to your mission here about your story and all
You're all
that
good.
and how you help people, but this is so good. Can I run one more thing past you? Because
You sure can.
I think what we're doing here, right? We're obviously everyone can read your bio and the show notes and who you are, but
Sure.
I gotta be honest with you, Stephen. Like we've never gone this far down the rabbit hole, and I've always been so intrigued. Like, how do you actually help someone not self-sabotage? Like, and
Mhm.
what does this have to do with their identity? And what does this have to do with their behaviors and beliefs? And you are putting it together so incredibly wonderfully that I just want to keep going for a little bit longer if you're cool with that.
Yeah, only correction is we're putting it together because we're co-creating this experience right now. But
I feel important all of a sudden.
I
Um,
think you are.
okay, let me ask you this. So, um, I don't look at porn. I haven't for years.
Okay.
I used to struggle with that. Okay, so
Yep.
there's that. I gave up drinking, and not that I was a big drinker, but I gave up drinking as you and I are recording like 105 days ago. I know that because I have an app that
Oh,
tracks that.
congrats.
Oh, thanks. I started it with 75 hard, you know, because I
Oh, uh-huh. Yeah,
that
yeah.
program and then I just was like, you know, and like to be honest, like people ask me like, are you gonna go back to drinking? And my response is, I don't really know. I was like, I'm not gonna say no. I'm not gonna say
Yeah.
yes. I just feel so fantastic without it that I don't know. I was telling my wife last night because we took the kids out to dinner and I got a non-alcoholic beer and she's like, are you ever gonna go back to drinking? And I looked at her and I was like, I don't know. I was like, to be honest, like I think I'm kind of done. And she's like, what do you mean?
Mhm.
I was like, I don't know. Like I look at alcohol now, like I look at McDonald's, like, and you know me, I won't even walk in one. I won't touch it. Like,
Mhm.
I'm just kind of to that point, and I got to that point with porn as well.
Yep.
So I'm wondering, but I don't know like psychologically why or how that happens, if that makes sense. Like those decisions and that evolution, and
Yep.
then maybe that identity, right?
Yep.
So if you could
Yeah.
explain that.
So totally. So a way to look at it is, so let me put it, you're a healthy guy. So would you drink your own urine?
Oh God, no.
So, new scenario. You decide to come out here and visit me in Utah. We hang out for a couple days. You go down to Moab and you decide to go out dirt biking by yourself. You leave the hotel and decide to leave your cell phone because you're going to, like, be in nature, be with God, whatever, do your thing. So you get out there 50 miles, you get off the road, that's off the road, that off the road. No one knows where you are. Bike breaks down. You're a good 50 miles from anywhere and you have no way to figure out which direction is which. So fast forward 3 days later, no one's found you, no one's coming. You have an empty water bottle and a full bladder. Are you going to drink your urine now?
Yeah.
So what we know about humans is 100 out of 100 will. So when I can eat at Ruth Chris, I never eat at McDonald's. This is the misnomer about all of the unhealthy behaviors we do. And the interesting thing about addiction is everything's addiction. So whatever the behavior is, I can do too much of it or too little of it.
Okay.
So when we look at what dads struggle with, I can do too much alcohol, I can do too much porn, or I can do too little social engagement, too little, right, work. I can be a workaholic, or I can never get a job and provide at all. Right. So I can be a workoutaholic. I had a client that I have to be at the gym 2 hours a day. And I'm like, and what happens if you don't for 3 days? He's like, that's not an option. Right. So he's working out too much. To myself and others, that we could kind of get more towards the middle in the working out department. Right. And so whatever I do, I can do it compulsively. The only time people drink the urine, mean choose to do the behavior compulsively, whether it's porn or alcohol or workout or whatever, um, it's because I can't get my needs met. So if I give you two options, a world where you stay within your values and do not get your needs met, or a world where you go outside your values and authenticity and get your needs met. What we know about human beings is 100 out of 100 times they will step outside of their values to ensure their needs get met. We are
Hmm.
we are meant we are creatures wired to survive. So you would not drink your own urine sitting in the studio today. Day 3 out there in Moab, absolutely you will. Even though it's still against your values, because now when you don't have water, you don't have a way to meet your values, right? Meet your needs within your values. You will meet it outside your values.
So you can continue to meet your needs like moving forward. Is that the biggest driver?
Right. And so how do I get my needs met? Right. So in working and everyone recovering or trying to change whatever is that self-sabotage, why is this meeting your needs? So when I sit with someone, they're like, man, I look at porn and it's terrible. I'm like, no, it's not. Porn's meeting your needs. Porn's why you're surviving. Porn's the urine. Don't tell me it's not working for you. It might be the only thing that's working for you. Yeah. And when we get some shame out of it, of like, no, I'm bad. I don't want to look at porn. Yes, you do, or you wouldn't be doing it. Yeah, you're right. It's actually like my only form of self-care. Right. Turns out. So, how can we get that self care met within your values? So, I remember the first time I went to a men's retreat and I'm like masturbating every day. Porn's like an every day. I go to this men's retreat for 3 days. I'm halfway through the third day and I'm like, what? And I'm like, I haven't even wanted to masturbate or look at porn while I've been here. And I'm like, what? What is going on? What is this? Because I had over sexualized all of my needs. And I'm like, connection is sex. Hey, wife, do you want to connect? Sex. Hey, do you want to? I'm lonely. Sex. I'm bored. Sex. I'm like, the answer to everything is sex. Same thing with alcohol. Alcohol is the answer to everything. Working more is the answer to everything. Being a churchaholic is the answer to everything. There's a million different ways, any behavior you can do it with. But when I start to get to like, how can I actually get my needs met and align with my values? That's where I can start to do that shame work, have the breakthrough, and that's where I can start to see it. The mistake everyone makes is they do that white knuckling thing where they're like, no, man, I don't want to be looking at porn. Let's go. And then they show up to the group and everyone hypes them up and they're like, yeah, bro, let's go, let's go, let's go. I'm like, dude, he's still out in the desert. The bike's still broken. He didn't even know where the F he is. So we can hype this dude up on drinking water all we want. Guess what's going to happen to him 3 hours from now when the sun's beating down on him? He'll drink the urine again. He doesn't have another option. And so it's when people can change and see that difference. This is my favorite misnomer, and everyone argues with me about it, is that rock bottom is why people change. It is grossly inaccurate. People change when they have hope for a better life. And I
Mm.
had this guy come on our show and he's like, no, my rock bottom is when I changed. I said, great, tell me the story. And he says, all the addiction stuff, all bad. So I go way out into the West Desert here in Salt Lake to go kill myself. Gun in the trunk, and I go out there. No one knows where I am. This is my rock bottom, and that's why I changed. I said, great. So tell me why you don't have a bullet in your head and why you're not 6 feet under. Because it changed you. So I'd like to know how it changed you. And he says, yeah, my wife didn't know, no one could find me. So she called one of my buddies. And my buddy was like, hey, man, like I felt the spirit. I'm like, I think I know where he is. And I think I'm on mission right now. So he went out and he found him. And he goes out and is this guy sitting there holding the gun, contemplating taking his own life. Here's a tap on the window. He's like, my buddy looked at me. And this is when he breaks down in tears. This is when the emotion happens. My buddy looks at me and he's like, we're not doing this. Get out of the truck. And he's like, and that's when my whole life changed. It doesn't change because we're in the desert and it's bad enough. We change when we have hope for better. And that's where people get stuck in that self-sabotage or stop telling everyone, stop, 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 stop. It's not going to work. Did it work for you? Let's try it again for another round. Stop forgetting at the grocery store, bro. It's 11 items. Get over your ego and look at the freaking text. She matters. I could do that hype track. Like I'm a hype guy. I could do that 600 different ways. Do you know what that's going to do for you at the grocery store, Larry? Nothing.
It makes
It's not
total
going to
sense.
change. It's not
Yeah.
going to change it. And we do that all the time. And I see that in porn all the time. Do you know how bad porn is? Do you know how much human trafficking happens? Do you know that it gives you ED? Do you know, these are all true things. I've never seen that get anyone off porn ever. I've had to give people more shame, right? But it's when I can start to look at, hey, how do we create enough safety so you can be honest about your needs? Hey, I feel really lonely. Great. How could we potentially deal with lonely? That's water, not urine. How could we start to create that need getting met that's within your values? Because when it gets met within your values, no one goes outside their values.
Is this the same thing? By the way, love this. Like I feel like I'm getting so much clarity on this topic in particular. Is this why, like, so for instance, when someone's like, I don't want to look at porn, I'm not going to look at porn. And basically all the brain hears is porn. It's like, don't think of an elephant, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do we actually remove shame and insert hope for a better life and even reframe identity when we're like, okay, I know I don't want to look at porn, but if I really whittle this down of, well, wait a second, I know what I don't want, but what do I want?
Right.
I want a life that is I let me think about this for a second. So if I were to state, you know what? I want to have more intimacy with my wife, physically, mentally, emotionally. I want to have more intimacy with her. I also want to have more time for productivity. And porn is not going to help productivity, right? I want to be a man who refuses to support an industry where people are trafficked, where women are exploited, where men are exploited. That am I going down the right path?
Yeah, and the one thing to put at the front of that is to get really, really honest.
Okay.
That's why safety is the first step. Why are you looking at porn? It's serving you in some way. It is meeting your needs.
Right.
McDonald's will meet the need. If you're
Yeah.
in a hurry and starving, you will not have the hunger in your belly. You might have
Sure.
a gut ache after, depending on what your diet's been, but right. And so it is meeting the need. And so it's getting honest instead of just saying, I want physical, emotional, spiritual intimacy with my wife. Well, no, does. So everybody does. What part of porn is working for you and filling the gap? Well,
Well,
I'm afraid to talk to my wife about my insecurities. Let's say we whittle it down. When I feel really insecure and I'm like, "Ah, like that's the gap that porn fills. Great. How do we create a pathway and an avenue that you can share and have emotional intimacy about your insecurities with your wife. That's what we're talking about. How then what's the strategies to put that together? Because once you start having that experience with your wife, all of a sudden your desire or need to look at porn is gone. Because if porn's helping you, manage the fact that you're feeling insecure, which we all do, it's a real human experience, right? Just like we're de-shaming you about the grocery store and being forgetful. Of course you're insecure sometimes. We all are. Great. Now let's take that into an intimate relationship that's within your values with your wife. How do we have the strategy to move it that way? And that folds right into everything that you're saying.
That makes so much sense. One other question, and I just keep saying one more question, but this is just so good. Is this why, so like for instance, let's just take the McDonald's thing, or I
Yep.
think that's the easiest thing. Um, for me, it hasn't like even been an option for so long that like I know how horrible I feel when I eat it.
Mm-hmm.
But and yes, it would fulfill a hunger need, so to speak. But the fact that it no longer correlates with my values, is that one of the biggest levers there?
Well, it never did correlate with your values.
True. Yeah.
Yeah. The lever being is having the courage to really own and name what I need, right? To really get honest of, hey, this is why I'm eating McDonald's because I don't feel like I have enough time in my schedule to get good food. Great. What if we had the courage to change your schedule so you had time to get good food? You had longer than a 10-minute lunch. Well, but I'm worried then my boss would, get on me and whatever. Great. So sounds like you need a new job because this is a urine desert job. So if you are working for a man that can't give you more than a 10, like you are in an unhealthy environment that's never going to align with your values. Let's move forward. And so as you acknowledge what your needs actually are, why that's so hard to do is because it's painful to be in our emotion, particularly the ones that are hurt.
That makes total sense. Um, I have never had anybody unpack identity, behaviors, self-sabotage like you did. This was awesome. I would love to know, like I know that so tell us about your organization. I know is the entire thing a nonprofit or just some of it?
No, entire thing's a nonprofit. And so Unashamed and Unafraid's a nonprofit. And so I've never gotten paid for doing any of it. I like I said, I run a therapy practice called Accepted and I get paid over there all day long doing that. And so yeah, Unashamed and Unafraid is it's really to spread hope. And so our mission and message is to spread hope so that people can hear guys like you and me being honest and vulnerable about their experience. And so and we have guys that have been in prison, the people that stayed married, the people that stayed divorced, the people that are single, younger, older, all the different things. We've had women come on the show and talk about their struggles with porn and what that looked like. We've had betrayed partners come on and talk. So all of that so that there's a relatability to know like you are not alone in any of the struggles and there's hope. Like the rock bottom change to hope for a better life you can have right now. And so what we nonprofit is we have a lot of people who have been in recovery and done a lot of things, right? And so we nonprofit scholarships to send people to events, books, all sorts of different things that have helped in recovery. And so if anyone's listening to our show or here and they're like, man, I would love to do some recovery stuff. I just can't afford it. That's where we'd say, call us. We have a community of people who want to help you afford it because there are things that have helped them. And so that's the organization in a nutshell is just sharing the stories of recovery and really of hope.
Wow. And just tell me some success, like you alluded to your story. I would love for you to finish your journey and to share how you
Yeah.
how you healed
Oh
and
yeah.
recovered.
Yeah, I mean it's all the things that we've been talking about, right? And being in similar organizations to yours like brotherhood and community, when you look at people who are recovering, so this put this out on your social media, I have heard hundreds of people's stories in recovery. The number one indicator of whether or not people will make it or not is community.
Yeah.
So if you had 10 guys from one of your mastermind group and you're like, Steve is an expert, tell me which one's going to make it, which one's not. I will ask one line of question and one line of questions only. What do their communities look like? This guy who's deep, super connected with all his other men or whatever, that's the one I'm betting on. And so that's the indicator of what gets people there. And so Unashamed helped me build a great community around myself. And so been 5.5 6 years something since acting out with other women and having that experience. And that's one thing I love about the podcast is Chris, one of our co-hosts, and help. He's a coach in my therapy practice as well. We call him the Hulk of Hope. He's 17 years since he's masturbated, looked at porn, or had an affair. um so I mean, pick a year and I can give you like names. When you're like, who are the 3 year guys? I'm like, oh, that's a like Sway CT. Like, and so the truth is like, I know so many. I can give you I can give you the guy that's 25 years sober and runs a bunch of recovery meetings here in Salt Lake. And yeah, I mean, go to his website. His story's public. We've had him on the show. To guys that are just living their life as a dad, right? I mean, living their legend in their world, and they're not running something like me or you, but we've connected with people. He's like, oh yeah, it's been our director's real quiet. He like hides in the background. He hasn't looked at porn since like 2008. And so I mean, just there's so many people stories I can give you over and over. But I think the thing that I would tell you that's most important is I know two things are true about me that weren't true in key of your guys' message of dad. One of my greatest shame moments was when my daughter was born. I was in full blown addiction. This stuff numbs you out. And I remember when she was born being there at the hospital and everyone being like, this is incredible. And in my body being like, I should be having a 10 out of 10 experience. I met like a 5 to 7. Like I could have been like, cool, bro, I have a kid. Anyways, like, you want to go to Buffalo Wild Wings and like get some wings? Like, oh, and yeah, it's cool. Like, because intellectually I got it. In my heart, I didn't get it. 3 years later, I started recovery after my daughter's 4 months old. 3 years later, when my son was born, and I'm not all numbed out and in my body, and being like, oh, this is the experience. This is a legendary life that everyone's living. And so I'll owe my daughter repair for the rest of her life of who I was, the dad that I was the day she was born, and the dad who I was when my son. So that's like that moment for me that I'm like, you want to know what addiction costs? I have two miracle moments in my life, one named Ivy, one named Porter. I was not present for one, I was present for the other. It is a very stark experience for me to see. And when I'm talking to men early in recovery, I'm like, here's the deal. Kayla and I might be fighting this week. It may not be going great. Who knows how my marriage will go for the rest of my life. But here's what I can tell you. When I go home today from recording this podcast and go home and she says, I love you, or we decide to have sex, what I know is she loves all of me. She knows the whole story, the whole history, and she's chosen to stay with me because of all of who I am. And I've chosen her because of all of who I am. And we're really building something that's legendary where a previous version of me could say that. I was like, well, if she really knew. And so those are the two things I'd really tell you that I now know from my recovery process of trying to live my own legendary life.
I love that, man. This has been phenomenal. What's really interesting is that when guys come in and out of the alliance, right? We have guys
Yeah.
who've been with us for gosh, ever since we started it. And we've had guys who will stay with us for 3 months and everything in between. So like 3 months to years, right? And the interesting thing is that we've had guys in the past leave and they've left for a lot of the reasons that you are talking about, like, which is like, and by the way, we are a community of imperfect knuckleheads, right? Where no
Right.
one's got this all figured out, but all
Right.
together we help each other tremendously. But what I'll tell you is that when guys have left in the past and their feedback has been like, I this one makes it almost makes me laugh. Like, but I also understand that this is the feedback is this person's reality. And the feedback I hear is, I don't deserve to be here with these other guys. And I'm like, are you serious? Like we're a
Yeah.
bunch of like knuckleheads, like just trying to learn. Like none of us are perfect. And like I said, that feedback has been very rare, but I can also see where if someone's identity is on the line and the behaviors and the shame and the self-sabotage, that a statement like that makes total sense to them.
Yep. Well, and that's probably a reason for a lot of guys who left who told you it costs too much money. I don't have the time. I'll re-engage later. Those are probably the surface answers that you heard or got on the feedback form when you just named the real answer that's behind all that.
There you go. Yeah, I think you're right. As far as how you help people, I know you said that if people don't have the money, you're still willing to help them and that kind of thing. But where do our guys start? So let's just say you shared something today and a guy is like, man, I really want to connect with Steven and this organization. What is the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, I mean, you can, if you find us, you go to unashamedunafraid.com. The whole team's emails are there at the bottom. And so listen to the podcast. You can find people's stories there. My email is just Steven at unashamedunafraid.com. That's my actual email. Like I reply to those emails, not an AI bot or several different variants of how people handle that. So it's not a sales funnel or that's my actual email. So give me a week. Sometimes that's the thing, but yeah, and so that yeah, you can find me there, and the therapy practice is called Accepted. It's acceptedlife.com, and that's our whole team of doing all the trauma healing and recovery stuff over there. um and our similar and connected vein to love what you guys do, we have another nonprofit we run called the Warrior Heart, which does men's non-denominational spiritual men's retreat is what we do over there to help people connect to find brotherhood. So I don't know, whatever way, let's hang out and help some men. I love what you guys are doing, and you're doing it for real, which is not true of everyone out there. And so there's a real connection, authenticity to what you guys are doing, and I just don't say that. People know me well enough. I just wouldn't come on your podcast. So I'm honored to have met you, and I think you add a tremendous amount of value and doing a lot of great things. So you can let yourself have that. It's okay.
Well, back at you, my friend. This has been awesome. I just pulled up your website and I mean I was on it doing homework earlier, but man, this is now that you've kind of taken me through it with the resources and your team and everything else. Like this is super cool, man. So if you guys I'll have the link in the show notes for you guys.
Mhm.
If you head on over to the dadedge.com/ 498 for this show again, the dadedge.com/ 498. That's where you can find all the resources if you want to connect with Steven, as well as unashamedandunafraid.com. We'll have some other resources in there for you as well. But Steven, this was really fascinating, man. I feel like this could have been a Joe Rogan podcast. I had questions. I was like, man, I really want to go down the rabbit hole with this guy on this topic because it's a topic that I've never fully understood from like that psychological piece of
Sure.
like putting
Yeah.
all these pieces together, but you did it beautifully. And thank you for that.
Well, thank you. It was awesome just being here and being vulnerable with you. So
Yeah.
enjoy the brotherhood.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Like I said, guys, head on over to thedadedge.com/ 498. Connect with Steven. Go out, live legendary. Take care.